Welcome to Drop the Clutch podcast.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of season 2 of Drop the Clutch. This is our Cardiff review episode. And we might even chuck in a Wroclaw preview. Who knows?
If you get lucky.
Yeah, if you get lucky. Hey, Frankie, it's been a while. You all right?
It has. It has indeed. We are back with the Grand Prix, and they're coming in thick and fast.
Yes.
SON over and done with. We're back to Cardiff.
Yep.
For, what's this one now? 23rd year? 22nd?
2001.
Yeah.
The only one didn't happen was happened was COVID, 2020 and 21.
Yeah, so what, that's 22nd or 23rd staging now. And it was a meeting. Biggest controversy around Matt Sayanovsky. We can get into that later.
Yes.
But winner for Dan Bewley. Nice.
Fifth win as well.
Yeah, he maintains a 100% final win record somehow.
Somehow. The first British 1-2 in the history of the GP series.
Yeah.
As well. At Cardiff. With Dan Bewley and Robert Lambert first and second.
I won't go so far as to say in the history of the GP series. It's probably right.
Because the last time it happened, it was in the World Final in 1980. And that was back when one-off finals were a thing.
Yeah, I was just conscious of the old eliminator format, the Grand Prix back in the 90s. Because we all know how much I love to throw curveballs.
Yep.
Hint, hint, Mark Laram.
Yeah. And then the last British top 3 was 1949. Bet you didn't know that.
No, I didn't look that far back.
My dad's an encyclopedia of speedway knowledge.
We should get him on at some point.
Don't think he'd go for that quite, to be quite honest. But, you know, yeah. He did tell me which riders it was on Monday night, but I've slept since then, so we'll just maybe somebody on YouTube or listening on Spotify will send us a message, or they'll leave a comment on YouTube going, "I know who those riders were."
Answers on a postcard.
That. I suppose the big talking point from Cardiff was Marslick not making the semis for the first time in 5 GP seasons.
I think that got lost under the mathematics mayhem the semi-final countback went to. But yeah, he did not have a good night at Cardiff, and I can't help it. People are reading too much into it, I think. With Smarzlik, he was in a way injured in Speedway of Nations. So he cracked a rib or something like that.
That's the rumour.
And it was clear from when he was riding in the Speedway of Nations that he was suffering from that injury. Yeah, assuming that the rumours are correct. But also Cardiff is a difficult place to go to. It's as Grand Prix go, it's probably the most open. Just by virtue of the track, really. And we know what that track can do. It didn't do anything particularly horrific this year.
It was rutting up towards the end, you could tell. But other than that,
I thought turn 3 was a bit of a motocross track, very bumpy. But
you could see that as they were going along there, the bikes were sort of just bouncing along. Like, okay,
yeah, but it didn't catch anyone out. Crucially,
Also, I've since watched it back on the TV, and something that one of the commentators said caught my ear.
Aye.
That Marslick recently bought a new engine, same manufacturer, but he took it to a different tuner.
Yeah, he switched engine tuners, which it's interesting because that you can see it. He switched bikes for his third ride as well and won it. So there could be a lot of things, a lot of factors at play, which is why I say I think people are reading too much into it, and I don't think this on its own changes the course of the series. I think Smarslick's got more than a big enough buffer to have 1, 2, maybe even 3 poor rounds without losing it.
We'll have to wait and see, because there's a few behind him on absolute heaters. You look at Lambert, Lindgren, Holder. I mean, look at Lindgren since he started riding in the UK again.
But crucially, Smarslick is still more than a Grand Prix win ahead of anyone.
True. But it is only 21 points now.
It is. It's down, but it's only down 6. That's what I mean. It was 27. So he's got a big enough buffer that he can get away with this. So for all we know, he could just be trying something for next year.
Maybe.
How likely that is in the middle of the season right now, I don't know. Certainly on a temporary surface like Cardiff, it seems a bit odd to even bother.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rule it out considering the size of the lead he's got. Because you think no other rider has been in this commanding of a position at this stage in the Grand Prix series.
True.
So
I'm hoping it's a bit more open next year.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't read an awful lot into it. I want to see how Wroclaw goes for him. Because it's much more, not to say conventional track, but it's much more, it's more suited to his style. The
2 Brits go well there as well, Lambert and Bewley.
Yeah.
Well, it's Bewley's home track over there, and Robert Lambert. I'm pretty sure Robert Lambert won Ty Wolfenden's testimonial there. So
I can't remember off the top of my head. The only thing I remember about Wolfenden's testimonial was him crashing out of it.
He's been doing that a lot lately, hasn't he?
He has, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think he was right to sit this round out. He's certainly right to sit Wroclaw out because he'll just do more damage to it.
Yeah. Well, what is it he said in his update? He said if he tries riding and he crashes on it again, he'll destroy the bone. So, and like he said himself, he doesn't want a prosthetic elbow. So,
yeah.
At least he's got some sense. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Had it say been the Wolfenden of 2014, I would have said differently. But he's got some.
If it was a Wolfenden of 2014, he would have rode.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
Yeah. So at least he's got a slight bit of sense in the last 10 years or so.
Well, even just the last 5, I still think that in 2019 he came back from his back injury too early.
Yeah.
And I think long term that's still the biggest thing affecting his performance.
Yeah. Quite possibly.
But yeah, if we were looking at Wolfenden 10 years ago, he would have been back for Cardiff. And I genuinely think he would have regretted it.
Yep.
But he wasn't. It was ultimately the right decision.
Well, in comparison to 10 years ago, he's got a family to think about as well now.
Yeah, that as
Not
well.
Just himself.
But,
yeah, a big factor in it.
So he's out for Wroclaw as well. He'll be back for Riga, assuming any further tests are positive.
Yeah.
Is
so he's having another scan on the 2nd.
Say that again, sorry.
He's having another scan on the 2nd, so that's about 10 days away.
Yeah. But he's buried at the bottom of the table now. There's no hope for him making the top 6, so he'll be reliant on a pick.
True.
I think he gave an interview at Cardiff, and he said if he didn't get a pick, the only thing he hasn't won is the Speedway European Championship.
Yeah.
Which be interesting because I don't want to call the SEC a Mickey Mouse competition because it's not. It's never really been taken seriously in the UK.
No, me and my dad were on about this last night.
No.
Good stage around here in England.
Well, it never really leaves Central and Eastern Europe. It's always sort of Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, occasionally Slovakia.
Yeah.
It never leaves the UK. Even when Lambert was riding in it, when Lambert won it a few years ago, it was never really taken seriously by like anyone in speedway circles in the UK.
Until he won it.
Well, even after he won it, like you still don't hear anything about it in the British media.
No.
But Wolfenden did ride in it 10 years ago.
Ah.
I was looking.
Yeah, again, proving your point. That's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, proving a point. I was looking back archives. He rode in it. I think last maybe 2013 or 2014.
Yeah.
Here's me casually checking. But yeah, he did race in it. He didn't win it, and I think he backed out of it very quickly after he won his first his world title that year, because obviously he wants to focus on the Grand Prix series. It's the bigger prize. Ultimately, it's taken much more seriously.
I mean, if you can get through the qualifiers for that, then go and win that, he'd be straight back in the Grand Prix again. So that is an option for him.
Yeah.
At the moment. So, who knows? Because that's how Mickelson got back in this year, wasn't it? Because he was destined to just be out. And then he goes and wins that. And then I was like, oh, yeah, you can have a wild card into the Grand Prix, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So Wolfenden finished 5th in the SEC in 2013.
Yeah.
He didn't. It's marked here that he wasn't promoted to the next to 2014. It's the top 5 that get promoted. Yeah. It notes that Janowski was promoted over him in 6th, which tells me that he backed out of it. But yeah, he has raced in it before. But like we were saying, it's not a competition that's really taken seriously. You didn't even know that.
No, true.
So,
although I didn't really take much notice until Robert and Dan were riding in it anyway.
Yeah.
It tends to just be a thing that European riders are in.
Yeah. And maybe a rider like Wolfenden going back in it would create more of a market for paying attention to the SEC. Like, there's no TV deal for the SEC in the UK. There hasn't been for 5 years or more now. Eurosport in the 2010s did have it. They don't anymore.
When I watched it, the only year I've watched it, the year Lambert won, I was watching it on the Eurosport app. And that was 2020, so I'm not sure about now.
There is no TV deal. Because I remember this one a few years ago. They announced a series of TV deals in certain countries. Everywhere else went pay-per-view, and the country list included fucking Brunei and Vietnam.
Okay.
So
bit weird.
Yeah, so we've got TV deals in Poland, Brunei, and Vietnam. Nothing for Sweden, Denmark, or the UK. Make that one make sense.
Again, Speedway doesn't make sense.
It does not. Yeah, maybe it would create a bit of buzz around the SEC. Maybe it's the kind of thing the SEC would need in the UK.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one because, like I said before, if he doesn't get a pick, who do you replace him with?
No, true.
So I think it's an open question who gets a pick for next year. Whether Wolfenden does. Doyle should, frankly. 47 points from 3 rounds was impressive for him in general.
Yeah.
But that's an open question, which we will discuss later on in the season, I reckon, probably toward the back end of it when we know a bit more about which riders will and won't need a pick.
Yeah, true.
I'm
just looking to see if I can find anything on, but the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody, I won't name names, obviously, because I'll get in trouble, but there's somebody on YouTube that streams it.
Okay. I mean, that's not surprising. You always get that kind of thing.
Yeah. You always get people that steal content as well, but we'll shufty past that as well.
Other positive takeaways from Cardiff. Lambert's back in second place in the standings.
Yay!
But he's got a fucking tiger on his tail.
He's got two. He's got Holder and Lindgren, like 2-3 points behind him.
He's got 3.
Ah.
Lindgren, Holder, Mickelson, all within 3 points of him.
Ouch. Makes the race for second exciting. Makes the race for the medals exciting. I can't lie, even if it ended tomorrow, I would be happy with second and third, but that's just me. A lot of people wouldn't be, but I would be.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning as well that if I'd have to check this to make sure I've got it right, to make sure they haven't screwed around with it this season, but if Lindgren and Lambert were tied second place, Lindgren would get it.
Because Lindgren's made more finals?
No, I think it's done by the FIM rank number, but I'm not sure. I would have to look.
Okay.
But on that,
will come on that. We'll let you know when Frankie's done some research.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this probably in the run up to Foyens. So, but no, but I mean, in saying that, Lindgren has made more finals than Lambert has.
True.
I'm not sure.
I'd argue that Lambert's been more consistent.
Oh, he has. Absolutely.
During the season. But it doesn't come down to that, does it? Like we saw on Saturday at Cardiff.
No. Well, we can discuss that as well. It's always difficult when you get riders tied on points on race positions like that. When you have to do a who beat who count back, it's actually really difficult.
Yes.
I could do it I could record a 10-minute piece to camera, just myself, talking about why the outcome was the way it was.
Okay. People watching and listening to this, let us know if you actually want him to do that, because he'll actually do that.
I will do. I'll have a whiteboard and everything.
Make it its own YouTube video. Frankie explains the FIM countback system.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll intersperse short photos of my program showing how this works as well. But
drop the clips behind the scenes.
Literally. But right. So I mentioned my program. Something like Who Beat Who is actually really difficult to do programmatically. I know that because I've tried. I've got my countback program has an implementation of it that falls apart when you've got more than 2 riders. The problem is it's not a simple true false. It can become very difficult, particularly for 3 riders who are all in the same heat.
Yeah.
So what?
Look at this guy making up words.
So right. So what can happen is if you have a who beat who with more than 2 riders, is that the final order it will give you depends on the starting order that you give it.
Okay.
So in other words, the order in which the who beat who is run will change the order that you get out at the end of it.
Yeah.
Which is why the FIM went back to the FIM rank numbers.
Okay.
Ultimately, there's no simple way of doing it because there's not a clear tie. No matter what the Polish press was saying, the way the Polish press were putting it was that because because Janowski and Lambert wanted 2, as in of the 4 riders, they beat 2 of them, but Lambert and Vasilik only had 1. Then they should split them off into those 2 groups and then do the FIM rank. Doesn't work like that, because as far as the FIM is concerned, that's not broken the tie.
Yeah.
The tie is between 4 riders, not 2 groups of 2. So you have to disregard that entirely and go to the FIM rank, which, because Janowski is a series substitute, means he will always finish last.
Exactly. We still need a full-length video on this.
Do we really need a full-length video on this?
Well, maybe you've explained, now that you've explained it, but maybe not. Who knows?
It's a difficult one. I saw it straight away. My program, like I said, it does quick sort on. It does a quick sort algorithm on the full riders, and then does a who beat who.
Okay.
It technically agreed with the Polish press and the outcome by saying that Bewley should have been out, because his FIM rank is less that of Vasilik, and that they would have been fighting for 8th and 9th. But it put Vasilik at 6th, which is what I mean. Which is what I mean when I say it depends on the starting order. If that starting order is different, it will give a different answer.
Okay.
So it's one of those things you've got to look very carefully for. For example, the FIM graphics after Heat 20 would have shown that Vasilik was out. That's because the starting order is essentially what it was before the heat.
Okay.
Unlike my program, which just takes the draw order, runs the algorithm, and then sorts it afterwards, they take the rank order as it was, adds the points in, and then reruns it, sees no point swapping them, and carries on from there.
Fair dues.
It's basically an Excel way of doing it. Excel, if you run a sort algorithm in Excel, if there's no reason for it to swap 2 cells, it won't do it.
Okay.
But that's it. It's confusing, particularly when you run it, when you go that high. But how often does that come up, really?
Not very.
No. I mean, who beat who doesn't often come up in Heat 20 at all. If it does, it's very rare that it's for more than 2 riders.
Is Cardiff had to go and be special again?
Again, because it's the second time at Cardiff where a person has made 9 points and not made the semis.
Yeah.
Trust Cardiff to throw some numbers at us. But that's the only controversy out of Cardiff, really.
Yeah.
And even then, it's only, well, I say it's only controversial because Poland. But let's be real here. If the outcome was Bewley was out, then we'd be having the same discussion.
Yes, very much so. Except it would be more heated because it would have been Dan that would have been not Magic.
Yeah. That's when I would have needed the full length video.
Yes.
This is what happened. This is why.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately that's what happened. It's over. It's done with now. The result is as it is.
Let it go.
Or if you can't let it go, let us know in the comments down below and I'll make that video.
Yes.
To be honest, I might just make it anyway.
I can see this, but you'll be the one editing it.
Oh, absolutely. If we need barely minimal editing anyway, it'd be basically a scripted piece to camera. But,
fair enough. I think we've pretty much covered everything, Cardiff, haven't we?
More or less.
Let's talk about Wroclaw.
Yeah.
This will go out just before then, so yeah, because it's due out next Friday, so this will go out just before then because the Grand Prix itself is on the 31st. So yeah, we'll talk about Wroclaw as well.
I've never been the biggest fan of Wroclaw.
Okay.
I know people poo-poo Gorzhov a lot for its track, and this year was probably reasonable enough. That track was awful, but I always find that Wrocław is worse, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't help when they held the World Cup there last year. They basically pounded the track for the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But it's not my favourite Polish track out there.
No. Okay.
But obviously they want a round there, so we're going to have a round there.
Yeah.
Nah. What can you say about Wroclaw? It's a difficult one. Could you see Bewley winning it?
I wouldn't put it past him because that's what he did last time. Generally would not put it past him.
No.
Or could Robert Lambert finally get his first bloody Grand Prix win?
To be honest, for Lambert, I have a feeling he would want it at Torren more than Wrocław.
Yeah, that's his home Polish track, yeah.
And I think he'd go well around Torren this year, but that's 4 or 5 weeks away.
Yes, that's the 28th of September.
It's
the last one.
Yeah.
Also, just a quick one. The rumours about Bellevue getting a Grand Prix and it replacing Cardiff have been quashed because there's a waiting list for tickets for Cardiff 25, so that's been quashed straight away.
Well,
unless they hold it as well.
I'm not sure it has. I can't remember if Cardiff has an exclusivity deal, but the rumours that I were hearing were that Cardiff's contract expires next year. So that's really when you need to be looking. You need to be looking for 2026.
I still don't think it'll happen though, just because of where Bellevue is. There's jack shit around it. It's out of the city centre, so you have to get a bus to it as well.
Yeah. By contrast, Cardiff is smack in the city centre.
Yeah, the stadium's literally everywhere you piss and look in the city centre, you can see one of the supporters that hold the roof up. So
yeah,
I generally don't see it happening unless it would be how both of them, but then one of them would suffer because I still think more people will go to Cardiff because, again, the argument is that Cardiff's in the city centre, whereas Bellevue is not.
The other thing as well is that Cardiff benefits from funding from the Welsh Government.
And that.
I
don't think Manchester City Council are going to cash in on another massive event.
I don't think they can afford it, can they?
No, especially after the Sun this year. I don't think they're going to jump at doing it such a massive event again so soon. Maybe say 27, maybe. Maybe they'll host the World Cup there in 27 or something. I don't know.
No idea. But yeah, I like the thing about Cardiff is it's always been. It's like Prague now. It's a mainstay on the SGP calendar.
Yeah, it's been there so very long as well.
And the problem, probably the bigger issue in Manchester, is that even with temporary standing, stadium capacity is limited.
Well, you say that, but then they couldn't even fill the temporary stand.
No.
So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you think of Manchester replacing Cardiff as the British Grand Prix, then even with most of the grandstand on the fourth turn empty at Cardiff this year, you're not fitting that number of people in the NSS, even with that temporary stand.
True.
But then the counterpoint, how many people wouldn't attend because it's not Cardiff, it won't have the same atmosphere, the same fan zone around it, etc.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a delicate balancing act there. I've always, less seriously, I've always thought about having a Grand Prix in Greater London.
That's me out straight away. I hate London. It's a dump. Come at me all you want because I'll die on that hill. I'll let
my dad do that. It's from South London, but
they're weird down there. They call people from Birmingham Northerners when they're not.
Londoners think anything north of Watford is northern.
Oh. Anyway, moving on before we get wrapped up in that. Moving on.
Yeah, but yeah, I've always, I not seriously as such, but I've always thought about the possibility of laying a track in like Wembley or Tottenham Hotspurs or something like that. I did briefly consider Twickenham, but the RF don't go for that kind of thing.
No,
so
they're not as accommodating as the Welsh Rugby Union.
But yeah, anyway, Wrocław.
Yes.
What can really be said about it, though? I mean, this is Janowski's. Is this Janowski's home track in Poland? I think it is.
Yes.
So he'll be looking for a good round this time around to kind of prove, if nothing else, to prove himself to the organisers.
Yes, I would like a wild card, please.
Yeah, because I don't see Wozniak getting a wild card pick for next year.
No, because he's shit.
He's not shit. It's not that much worse than Lebedev's.
Who made the semis on Saturday? Lebedev's did.
Yeah.
Wozniak is shit. From what I've been told as well, he's a big sore loser.
Yeah, I don't see him getting a pick. So there is kind of an opening that may allow Janowski back in. Quebec as well. Not happening.
Oh well, not yet anyway. I think it was too early for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, so someone like Janowski wants a big round to prove himself. Yeah. And this is probably his best opportunity at that.
Yeah, true.
He's always he's an enigma though. He never performs when you think he needs to in the Grand Prix. Like he's led the Grand Prix season, led the Grand Prix series several times, but then his performance just collapses.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether he will have a good round or not. It may depend on what side of the bed he falls out, and he could win it. He could finish last.
Yeah.
True. I think the most interesting thing that will come out of Wrocław is where the top six are looking afterwards, because we talked about the race to the top for 2, 3, 4, and 5 is close, but Bewley is only 2 points behind Vashlik for 6th as well.
Yeah.
So this is I think the top 6 now is where we need to be looking. I think it's reasonable to assume that Smarzlik has won the title with the information we've got now. If he has a poor round at Wrocław, as in like another 7, 8 point showing, then we need to start looking at it closely. We need to start looking this as a repeat of 2018.
Yeah.
When Woofenden gained a commanding lead at the midpoint of the season, but then tailed off to Smarzlik chasing him.
Yeah, true.
But I think for now it's reasonable to say that Smarzlik, this is Smarzlik's title to lose. Ignore him for now. Look elsewhere for where the excitement is.
Yeah, in the race for the silver medal.
Because this order, Lambert, Lindgren, Holder, Mikkelsen, Vashlik, Bewley, at the end of Wrocław could be completely different.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying I expect Bewley to suddenly shoot up into second place or anything like that, but
no, because Lindgren, Lambert, and the others would have to have a really shit GP for that to happen.
But it could happen. So I think that's the most interesting thing to keep an eye on for Wrocław. This is really where focus needs to be paid to.
Wild card info for Wrocław and Riga.
It's Kolodinsky's for Riga, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Dudek's back in for Wrocław.
Nice.
Only because Poland don't seem to have anybody else.
Apparently not.
I would have given it to Cernak personally, because at least he looks like he could compete. Dudek's just gone.
We had the wild card at Warsaw.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I have this feeling that like the PZM tried to avoid giving the wild card to the same rider more than once.
Fair enough.
Which I mean, it is fair.
But Poland haven't got that many more riders that are GP level after the ones that are already in there, as Marzik, Kubera, and Janowski. And Janowski is questionable.
Well, even that Kubera and Bosniak aren't in the top 6.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, old system Kubera would be in the top 8.
If a Pole was to get a wild card next season, it would probably be Kubera, because I reckon he's the next best thing after Zmarzlik.
Yeah, but like I say, I think Janowski wants to prove a point a bit.
Yeah,
which he could do.
Yeah, true.
Plus, also bear in mind the Grand Prix Challenge hasn't happened yet. That's on. I think November. That's on like October 4th or something.
Isn't it somewhat ridiculous? Like a day or two after the last Grand Prix.
It's just 6 days after it. Which
yes, it's the following Friday.
Yeah, because it's a Pardubice, which is interesting because I've always said that the Grand Prix Challenge should be held the night after the final Grand Prix at the same venue.
That would make it more interesting.
Then again, I've also said that we should have a Grand Prix at Pardubice and bin off Prague, but they don't listen to me. So
no, the big powerful FIM won't listen to a tiny little speedway podcast that only 20 people listen to. But yeah,
I mean,
past those numbers.
I mean, Pardubice is a significantly better track than Prague.
Yeah, but again, Prague has got. I know the track's not in Prague; it's slightly out. But as somebody who's been to Prague, even though it was only for 5 hours, it's still got more. It's got the old town and
it's got the amenities around it. Yeah.
Yes. Also, the airport's like less than 5 miles away from the centre.
Yeah, which are all valid points. I just think it's time for a new venue to an extent. Like Prague has been a mainstay since '96, so
yeah.
But that's by the by. Winner for Wroclaw. Can you pick a winner? Really?
Dan Bewley to go and win the second and be the first rider to win 2 Grand Prix this season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like every Grand Prix is a different winner so far this season.
Somebody's got to be the first to win 2, and I reckon it's going to be Dan. I reckon he's going to go back to back again like he did in 22.
Alternatively, Lambert could get his first win, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean any Brit.
Yeah,
I don't mind. Just a quick mention for Tom on Saturday. He hardly disgraced himself.
No, he showed himself.
He got very unlucky against Mickelson.
Yeah.
When it was on the line. But other than that, he was, even in the races he finished last, he was on the pace and he was competitive. So,
yeah, his performance is certainly on par for wildcards we've had this season. So he's not done horrible. I think he's like with a lot of them, is just out of his depth a little bit, particularly on a track that he probably hasn't seen before.
But it's different. It tends to be different every year, doesn't it? The Cardiff track.
Yeah.
He was a track reserve in 22, and he rode in SGP2 in 22.
That was a completely different track,
and that track was fucking awful. So,
yeah.
It's going to be different every year, isn't it? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything we needed to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Wroclaw next, and then literally like a week later is Riga. The week after that is Foynes, and there's a week's break, and then we're at Torren.
And then that's the end of the season.
I think as Grand Prix seasons go, I don't think I've seen a calendar this packed in the back end.
No.
Before.
True.
It's weird enough to have 2 Grand Prix on back-to-back weeks. Have 3 Grand Prix on back-to-back weeks is basically unheard of.
Strange. Let me just find with the leagues here.
Well, with the British League, the top 3 in the playoffs are confirmed, aren't they? I know their order isn't, but in the Premiership anyway.
12 you have only got to get a point tonight to confirm said, and they're currently winning at Ipswich.
That's to confirm the top 4?
Yes. They've only got to get a point, but if they get all 3, like I think they will, because Ipswich are suffering more injury trouble and Keane and Rue's now withdrawn.
Oh, cracking.
Not good, but yeah.
Where is this? Vauxhall?
It's at Vauxhall, yeah.
Okay.
Super Scotty Nichols guessed in for Ipswich, 2 wins in a second. Dan Thompson a last and a paid second. Danny King 4. Zach Cook guessed nothing. Rider replacement for Emil sat running off 3 points because Scott Nichols won his race. Keenan Ruse withdrawn. Jordan Jenkins 2. Dan Bewley paid 5. Oric paid 5. Lindsay 2. Ben Cook 1 paid 2. Brady Kurtz 5. Vulas 3. Mulford paid 3. What happened to Rue? Jenkins okay. Back to the pits, repair to defence. What happened? Rue withdrawn with injured elbow and abrasions. Just goes from bad to worse for the Witches. That's the updater's comments, or the texter's comment.
Do we even know when? Do we know when or if Safutinov will be back for Ipswich?
Well, I think the main thing was that he had a pretty nasty wound on his butt, which he had to have an operation on to close up. So he might not be back just because of that. Because, say, if he tries to sit on the bike, it could open the wound up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I think that's more or less it. Premiership top 4 is now looking more or less confirmed, which means we should have the playoff dates confirmed in due course.
Fingers crossed.
But
yeah, that's pretty much it. So cheers for listening.
Wrap up.
Thanks for listening. This was episode 11 of season 2. This was our Cardiff review, Wroclaw preview, and chat about FIM ranks and all that good stuff. We'll catch you on the next episode of Drop the Clutch. See you later.
Goodbye. You have been listening to episode 11 of Drop the Clutch season 2, presented by Ruth Hannah and Frankie Sparks, recorded on the 22nd of August 2024 and edited by Frankie Sparks. This was a Drop the Clutch production.